Whoa!
What's going on, fellas? Monster Energy Supercross, the game 2, aka MESX 2. First impressions, thoughts, opinions. How am I feeling about it so far? Is it better than MXGP Pro? I think you could serve up a wet carrot and it would be more interesting than MXGP Pro, no doubt. On a side note, this is my new first custom track in the game. Very creative name, guys. The Donut MX Pound 2. I was going for the brand recognition to get most downloads again. I'm going to go ahead and make the excuse that I didn't release it early enough to get that top spot, fellas. And of course, you can't race it with your friends either. So that's definitely going to hurt the downloads, you know, not being able to play a track, an online track with your friends online. Please fix this milestone. Here we go. Oh, so did some other people join? Cool. All right, I might quiet down here for a sec, fellas, so I can go full try hard.
Resetting, my dude.
Oh. Are y'all still resetting?
I just held the gas and got past it.
I can't.
So I can go, but y'all can't?
Trying to get that win, dude.
I'm gonna get my first dub. Fuck you guys. See, that's
now
what
I'm stuck on that spot I kept resetting at.
Oh man, this is my first time riding my custom rider with like a modded bike. It feels good. Surprisingly, that's actually one of the few bugs I encountered. They did pretty good as far as bugs and glitches go in this game, especially compared to MESX 1, which was just almost unplayable at the beginning. This game runs pretty good, pretty smooth most of the time, and me and my buddies don't really have any problems with it. So the big question is, Don, hey Don.
Hey, Don.
Is it better than the first game? Well, I don't know. I'm still not sure. I truly don't know. Which is a good thing because I really liked the first game. It's not that it's the same as the first game, so it's hard to choose between the two. And it's not necessarily objectively better or more fun. It's just different. With most of these moto games, I feel like you can play, you know, the new one in the series and be like, okay, this is 100% for sure more fun or less fun. It's like either a better game or a worse game. This one really is just kind of different than the last one. Like, they made some tweaks and it is objectively more realistic, but that doesn't necessarily make it more fun. And let me explain that for you. So in the first game, of course, y'all remember, you could just launch jumps to Kingdom Come and, you know, case a sextuple or whatever, however far that goes, and just ride it out just fine. And now the game actually punishes you for casing stuff, not to a really annoying, unrealistic, and frustrating extent that MXGP Pro did, but at a more fair and reasonable rate. Like if you case, you know, a huge Supercross triple. I think as far as casing goes, they could be a little more forgiving, because I think I've crashed on every Supercross triple that I've cased. But if you watch in real life, you would know that some dudes, actually probably most dudes that case Supercross triples ride out from it. So that's one change that is definitely more realistic, but I'm not really sure if it impacts whether or not I'm having more or less fun with the game. I guess it's cool that, you know, it punishes people who don't time it right or whatever. So I'm alright with it. I think they could, if you're listening, Milestone, if you could just tune that a little bit to be just a little more forgiving. You know, let me case a Supercross triple half the time, a quarter of the time, I'll be happy. So after the casing, we have the rhythm and your momentum and rhythm sections. And I guess you could throw casing in here too, because if you case jumps now, you also lose a lot more momentum. So now you really need to concentrate and just hit your marks in rhythm sections and stay clean, and you'll get out just fine. Timing your rhythm sections just right and keeping your momentum going is more important than ever. In the first game, you could just kind of muff a rhythm section and then start like wheeling over jumps. You can't really do that in this game. Now, if you screw up a rhythm section, you're gonna lose a considerable amount of time. And speaking of wheeling over jumps like in the first game, I don't know if any of y'all noticed, but if you got pretty quick at the first game, I don't want to sound like a douche, but the faster guys figured out a big key to going fast in the first game was sometimes knowing what rhythm or what jump to wheelie over, which sort of acted as a scrub in the game and kept you lower to the ground and shaved a bunch of time off of laps. I know it's really easy to point at that and say, "Ah, that's fucking stupid, you can just wheelie over jumps, dude." I don't know, I kind of found something a little satisfying and fun about it in some sort of arcade sense. Like in the same way in Mad Skills Motocross, if you wheelie over jumps in that game, which is really technical and difficult and satisfying when you do it, you cut a bunch of time off of your lap times and stay lower to the ground. So I guess in a Mad Skills Motocross sense, that's the game, right? On the phone. I'll throw up some footage of it or whatever. I kind of liked that mechanic. And in the second game, it's gone now. So that's a big gray area for me where I don't know how to feel about it. Because sure, it's more realistic as a motocross or supercross game. But I also kind of had fun with that mechanic. It definitely makes the game way more realistic now because you have to take the rhythm sections like you have to in real life. You know, you got to jump through. You can't like wheelie any parts of it. I think the majority of, casual arcade motocross players are probably going to like that more. Everyone on every social media outlet seems to beg for more realistic shit. So here it is. I hope you like it because you can't wheelie over jumps anymore for speed, which is cool. I like it both ways. I still am legitimately unsure of if I like or don't like this change. It's fun either way, so, that's cool. So, I see that change, and I guess I appreciate it, Milestone. You switched it up. You didn't just, sell the same game. So the casing is more realistic, the rhythms and momentum are more realistic, and now the turning is more realistic. And just like the rhythm sections, I'm not sure if I find it more or less fun. It's just different, but it's absolutely more realistic. You can't rail corners quite as hard as you could in the first game, where you pretty much are wide open the whole time. But it just has this more realistic sensation where you have to be sure to brake at the right amount, enter the turn at the right speed, and there's just this good feeling about planning your bike and keeping your momentum going and easing on the throttle out of the exit of the corner. It just feels much more true to real life, but it is a little slowed down from the last game. So, I'm not sure if it's as fun, but it's more realistic. It's just hard to gauge. I definitely think, Milestone, you could tweak the turning a little bit, just make it a little less stiff. Just like casing jumps, just a tiny adjustment. It feels a little hard to turn. If you could just, make us turn a little sharper. There's just a tad too much understeering going on here. I've messed with all of the suspension setups, I've moved my clickers all around, nothing fixed the understeering. But again, just like the other small problems I have with the game, this could go untouched and I'd be fine with it. It feels good for the most part. Oh, and also, Milestone, if you come in too hot and you're sort of riding the top of the berm, for some reason the game doesn't really let you cut down. You're kind of just like stuck at the top unless you slow down like way too much. I'll throw in some examples right here. But it's just a little odd to me that the fastest line on every corner in the game is sort of undercutting the berm and riding the berm very low instead of riding it at like the steepest point. The biggest improvement by far from the first game, ladies and gentlemen, they fixed the tough blocks. The tough block problem is completely solved now. They will never get in your way. They will never ruin your race. 95% solved now. If they get blown onto the track, they're non-collidable. They're not going to crash you or screw you up anymore. If they are knocked onto the track, they instantly disappear and get reset. It's just way better. So you can actually have multiplayer races without tough blocks ruining the race now. My only complaint is that they're rock solid if you touch a tough block on the side of the track. That thing will send you flying 100% of the time. It also makes it really hard to re-enter the track, and the track boundaries are very unforgiving if you're even barely out of bounds. But I can neglect all that because the tough blocks are just so much better now. Thank you so much for fixing that, fellas. Somehow, the whips are once again worse than MESX 1. I don't know how Milestone always goes backwards on their whips / scrubs, whatever. Everyone is always asking for a free whip mechanic.
Free the whip, free the scrubs.
And I was asking for it too, but I've given up hope. I don't think they're ever gonna have free whips or anything like Reflex. We're a little spoiled with those Reflex free whips, so they're good enough. They're good enough. The scrubs feel pretty good. I mean, they look worse now, but they're good enough, I guess. Scatterbrain video, low effort. What's next? Yeah. I like it. It's a good game. It's a solid game. I can recommend that you buy this. I probably won't make a big is it good review for this. It's just not different enough from the first game to really warrant a big full review. And I would probably just rehash all of these points, but with jokes and more effort and actual editing. So this'll be it for now, unless I run into something or Milestone releases a big update that completely changes the game. They did say on Instagram they're looking at our feedback and they might make adjustments to the physics and all that jazz. So, take my points into consideration here, fellas. Tweak the casing, make it a little more forgiving. Make the tough blocks on the side of the track a little more forgiving. Not as hard as a rock, a little more spongy. Some sponge action. Adjust the out of bounds area on the sides of the track to be a little more forgiving. Sometimes when I'm clearly on the track, it still says that I'm out of bounds. And adjust the understeer, just a little adjustment. Let us turn a little sharper. Really just small tweaks, and I'd like this game even more than I already do. Really, this whole video I just talked about the physics because that's all I care about. I know other people love career and stuff. It's always good in these games. The customization is top tier. The career mode is improved. You can sign autographs and shit. I don't know. It's pretty cool. All that extra stuff in these games is always great. I'm sure a lot of people care about that stuff. But for me personally, it's just all about those physics. All about that fun factor, baby. If you've played the game a little bit and you don't like it, this kinda sucks, but at least play enough to earn enough credits to fully customize your 450. It really does make a difference. The pro riders aren't as good as your custom rider when you're fully modded out. What sucks is that it takes way too long to fully mod out your bike. So you might play 15 hours and then finally have the modded bike, and then if you still don't like the game after that, then you just wasted 15 hours of your life. And that's not to be confused with career mode, where you have to train your rider. I'm fairly certain that the career mode, training your rider, is completely separate from, time trial or multiplayer and all that jazz. In the comments, I've seen a couple people ask whether or not they should buy this or the first game. And I guess if you're really strapped for cash, I'm sure the first game's 10 or 20 bucks now, but the multiplayer is going to be dead for the first game. And to me at least, this game is all about the multiplayer. I just don't really get much out of racing against bots all day. If you want to know what the better game is, flip a coin. I don't know yet. I need to play a little longer. Milestone said they're listening to feedback to update the physics and stuff, so it could get better in time. I don't know, but I can definitely recommend both games. They're both solid games. If you really need me to put a schmeezer rating on this, I'm gonna go with 8 schmeezers out of 10, boys. Same as the last game, and it's definitely time to end this before this turns into a long, 45-minute Spencer Turley rant. See you boys in the next video. I think I got 1 or 2 left before I go into hiding for season 2, fellas. Go ahead and start or finish your day off right by listening to the soothing sounds of the man himself, the galaxy himself, Spencer Turley's Spectral Blur. You are now tuning in to Donnie O.5 in the morning.